You guys want to see the coolest thing that I got? One of my besties bought me this cowboy boot that literally like a matchbox, okay? Exhibit A, candy corn candle. Are you ready for this? Watch this. See the dots? Are you kidding me? All right, let's take it down to the floor. Hello everyone, it's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you've come back, thank you so much. Today's video is going to be a cozy sit-down video. I thought it could be really fun to talk about all the romance books that I've read so far this year and whether or not I'd recommend them. I guess it is going to be a longer version of a yes, no, maybe video that we all see on TikTok and Instagram and what have you. So far this year, you guys, I've read around 75 books. Don't hold me to that because I have not updated my Goodreads and I don't even know how long. I really need to sit down and do some admin. But yesterday, I was thinking about a video to do and I was like, what could we do? What could we do? Because there is a vlog coming after this. I was gonna do like a romance recommendation video, but I just did one not long ago. So I was going through and looking at my books, looking at my shelves, and I went, why don't I go through like every single romance book that I've read so far this year and tell you guys whether or not I recommend them with a yes, a no, or a maybe. So out of the 75 or so books that I have read this year, I have read 41 romance books, which is like good, but kind of surprising because you guys know romance is my primary genre. This year I've definitely branched out. I have definitely read a lot more thrillers than I used to read. I'm reading a lot more romantasy than I used to read. So it's kind of interesting to see that about 35 books are from other genres. So I've written them all down. I've got my thoughts. I'm really excited. They're all down next to me. So without further ado, you guys know the drill. Let's get comfy, let's get cozy, and let's get right on into this video. I am just hoping and praying that I don't have lipstick on my teeth because every time I add gloss, these big vampire teeth I have on the side of my mouth, they just decide that they want to have lipstick on them. So as I was saying, you guys, apparently I have read 41 romance books this year so far. I do have them out in front of me. I've got all their ratings too. Now, I will quickly say, just for a few fun statistics, out of the 41 books that I have read in the romance genre, I have DNF'd 5 romance books out of those 41. I feel like I've honestly DNF'd a lot of books this year, but I feel like I have a very low tolerance for things that I will not tolerate in romance books. I know pretty early on if I'm going to like a romance book because I just read so much that I know if a romance book is going to be for me or not. So I'm going to start from January, work my way down. So first up, I have honestly like one of the most anticipated books that I wanted to read this year. It is Deep End. This is by Ali Hazelwood. I was very kindly sent an early arc. This is honestly so stunning with the like dark blue cover and the teal foiling. It's just so gorgeous. This was Ali Hazelwood's debut sports romance. It was something that I was very excited for. It's something that you guys were very excited for as well. I'm gonna try and keep these somewhat concise because we do have 40 books to get through today. This one here, I'm going to give a maybe. This one was a little bit lackluster, I will say. I think that for me, it was just way too spicy. I think like I understood that it was supposed to be like a BDSM type of relationship, which is not a problem. It's more so the fact that I didn't feel this emotional connection between the main couple. And my main issue with this actually was to do with the female main character's best friend. Her like motives towards the beginning of the book did not match where she ended up. She was a very integral part of this story and I just think it was like full whiplash and I was like, this was poor writing for me personally. So I think I gave this book a 4-star. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it's like a little bit less than that. Ali Hazelwood's books are always so strong for me, but I will say that it was a disappointment. So I'm going to say maybe 4 stars is a good rating, but I do think that it's probably leaning more towards the like 3.75 now that I'm reflecting on it. Next up is a book that I no longer have. It is Set on You by Amy Lee. If you couldn't tell by the fact that this book is a sticky note in this pile, I DNF'd this book literally probably 20 or so pages in. Sometimes I have a real issue with romance books feeling like they're really stuck in a certain era. Obviously, historical romances are different. They're obviously set in a certain time period, but this one, I think, from my personal taste, it kind of gave me the ick. There was references to like them dressing up as the Snapchat flower crown for Halloween and like all this weird stuff. This was a gym romance between like an influencer and a firefighter, and I just like couldn't get into it. I think it, like I said, I could so tell that it was heavily rooted in like 2016 lore, which is fine if you can make it work, but I just think it was giving me cringe more than like slight references if you will. This one's gonna be a no for me. I am really sorry. Anyways, following that, I read Phantom. This is by H.D. Carlton. My legs are indeed falling asleep. This is part of the Cat and Mouse universe. So if you aren't familiar, Haunting and Hunting Adeline, they are very, very, very popular dark romance books. They're very triggering. So please check the trigger warnings if you're planning to read this series. This is a spin-off. If you have read at least Haunting Adeline, the first one, you will know that Adeline's great-grandmother Gigi has a very heavy presence in that book, especially through her journals. This is Gigi's story. So I feel like it was something that everyone was really excited for. I loved this. I thought this was so special, really beautiful. Again, it had the historical elements of like the 1940s, I'd like to say, that were done really well. I just really liked it. Especially after reading Where's Molly, which was kind of average for me. This is how you do like an emotional dark romance. I really enjoyed this. This is definitely something that I would recommend. Up next is The Other Brother. This is by Tierney Page, Bestie Tierney, who is a beautiful Australian author and also influencer as well. This is Tierney's debut novel. It came out in, I would like to say, January of this year. She sent me an ARC and it has since then been traditionally published. This is an ARC copy that Hachette sent me when the book was traditionally published. This is a ex-boyfriend's brother rock star romance, which was so nice and kind of refreshing. I feel like I haven't really read anything like this before. I'm going to give this book a maybe, but leaning towards yes. I think that whilst there were very many things that I loved about this book, I could tell that it was a debut, which is, you know, that's wonderful and it's great. I'm excited to see where Tierney goes with the story and how she grows as a writer as well, because I just think that she has so much potential and I can't wait to continue this series. So this, as I said, is going to be like a maybe leaning towards yes. I still gave it like a 4-star. It was very enjoyable. So if you want to support an Aussie author, highly recommend. Up next is a book called What Are the Odds? I have totally forgotten who this is by, maybe Maddie Lee. This was honestly like so cute. I'm pretty sure this was like a college romance, but we had like an exchange student from Australia. It very much gave me like Grease vibes. I don't know why. And it was funny because there was an allusion to them going as Sandy and Danny for a Halloween party. She is like a swimmer and he was a football player. This book was just really fun. I think it was just something that I didn't think I was going to love as much as I did. It was okay. I think I gave it like a 3.5 star. So I liked it. I wouldn't say I would continue the series, but this is going to be another maybe for me. Up next is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Now guys, I feel like when I got to this book in the Emily Henry verse, this was like going to be a make or break book for me, because I feel like the other books that I'd read by her, they were okay. They were nothing too exciting or like special per se. So I was nervous going into this one. This is about a literary agent and a publisher, I believe, an editor, there we go, who are vying over the same piece of work, and they both end up holidaying in the same small town over the summer. And I actually loved this. This might be my favorite Emily Henry book that I've read so far. So this is a big fat yes. I would 100% recommend this one. Of course, I have yet to read Funny Story and Happy Place, but I have read every other book that she has written so far, and I like this one the best. Up next is Lights Out. This is by Nevessa Allen. This is a comedic dark romance. I highly stress the comedic part because this book is whimsical in a way that I did not think would work with the dark romance setting that it is in. This follows a trauma ward nurse and the masked thirst trap performer that she follows on social media, who starts stalking her. It sounds ridiculous, and it is, but it works. I often say that this book succeeds in the way that something like Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver did not. It blends comedic and dark romance elements so effortlessly. I was just literally highlighting all the funny bits more than anything else. This book honestly is a stroke of genius. I gave it 4.75 stars, so that is needless to say that this was a big fat yes. I highly recommend this book. It was just so clever. Up next is Binding 13, which is the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. This one is a yes. Now, if you are like me and you are not a fan of young adult romances, I urge you to read at least the first 100 pages of this, because I was reading the first couple chapters and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I don't know if I'm gonna want to read this, but I did. And this one, out of all of the books in the series so far, has been the strongest, has been my favorite. Maybe, maybe not, but this is the strongest. This is a 5-star and I highly recommend. This is a yes without, you know, any sort of doubt. That is of course followed by Keeping 13, which is the second book. This one I think is my favorite book in the duet, maybe even the series. This is the book that I remember the most. This is the book that I genuinely like finished and had to tell about 16 different different people what happened. I was like, I don't even care if you don't even know what's going on in this book. I need to tell you the insanity that happened in this book, because there's just a particular sequence in this book that I will remember for the rest of my life. It was so insane. I will never forget reading it for the first time. These books are so heavy. Yes, they are set in high school. We have high school age characters, but please be aware, it is very, very, very heavy on family domestic violence, and that sort of progresses in other ways throughout the series. And following that, I read Saving Six, which is the third book. I'm going to get so much hate for saying this, but this book is a no for me. I do not think that this book was necessary, and here's why. Let me tell you why. This book starts the journey of another couple, but Joey and Aoife are two characters that we saw in the first two books very frequently. You know, it's not like they are two brand new characters who we'd never heard of, that we'd never seen before. We saw a lot of them in books 1 and 2 as side characters, and I feel like when you read a book, I need a book that is show and not tell. And I feel like in the first two books in this series, we got so much show that I understood who they were. I know what they were going through. I knew what was happening, I guess, in terms of their relationship. Not in terms of like what the individual characters were mentally thinking, but I knew who they were. I know what they were up to. I knew the dynamics of their relationship. And I feel like this book literally just told me again who they were, and it was such a waste, which is really sad because I kind of wanted two full books for Joey and Aoife with new information. So I will always stand on business and say that this book was incredibly unnecessary. Following that, of course, was Redeeming Six. Now, this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. This, I understand, is a lot of people's favorite book in the series to date, and I can understand why, but I'm not a Joey and Aoife girly. I'm definitely more of a Johnny Shannon, Gibbsy Claire girly. Okay, that's just who I am. This book is going to be a yes, because it was going to be a maybe, but this book definitely is just the most emotional. It ruined my life. I felt like sick reading it many, many, many points. I do, however, feel like I could not stand the retelling element of this duet. It frustrates the living daylights out of me to reread the same story that we read in Binding and Keeping 13. So I will say yes for the emotional journey that Joey goes on, but no in terms of the retelling element. So I'm very on the fence about that one. Up next is Wild Side. This is by Elsie Silver. This is book 3 in the Rose Hill series. Now, I love Elsie Silver, and I loved in particular Wild Eyes, which was the book before this. I read that obviously last year when it came out, and it was honestly up there with Heartless, like as one of my favorite books that Elsie has ever written. So I had really high expectations for this one because it was going to be, again, another single parent romance. It was going to be enemies to lovers and marriage of convenience with a wrestler male main character. But this book is a no for me. I really didn't like this, and I'm really sad about it because I think there were a plethora of things that were wrong with this book. The first one being that for a series that focuses around single parents, the child in this book was not shown enough. There was no scenes between the parents or the incoming love interest. I really felt like we heard about him and never saw meaningful and long-lasting interactions, which we had seen in the previous books. I also feel like this enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers got resolved so quickly that it infuriated me for the entire book. So that is a no, unfortunately, but I do still plan to read Wildcard. I literally just got sent it. Following that is Never Been Worse. This is by Morgan Elizabeth. You guys know I absolutely adore Passenger Princess, which is actually the first book in this series. This is book 3. I believe this is the Evergreen Harbor series. This one I was really excited for as well because it was going to be a marriage of convenience rockstar romance, which you guys know, two things that I really, really enjoy. I will say that the first half of this book was really strong. I actually really enjoyed. I would say the first 20% I was kicking my feet. I was having a great time, and then it was not good. So this is going to be a maybe for me. I will say quickly on Morgan Elizabeth's books, unfortunately, I just feel like she's pumping them out way too fast. They're not getting enough love on the editing floor, and I can tell because the quality of these books is not good. I'm going to talk about another Morgan Elizabeth book in a moment, and I'm going to tell you something funny that sort of happened with that. So, okay. Following that, I read First Time Caller. Guys, I feel so short. It's because I'm sitting on my feet. Maybe I'll lower the camera a little bit. That's better. First Time Caller, BK Borison. This was such a surprise. This is a Sleepless in Seattle inspired retelling. I feel like I have spoken about this book so much this year because genuinely it was one of the easiest 5 stars I've ever given a book. It was just really cozy and really funny and really sweet. Single parent radio show vibes. I just, yeah. Yes, this is a yes. However, this is why it's so interesting to always keep trying authors. If you ever read a book by an author and you're like, not for me, I'm never going to read another book by them. This instance happens in the reverse too, right? Sometimes you'll read a book by an author and you love it, and then the next book you read by the same author you don't love. And that happened to me with In the Weeds, also by B.K. Borison. This is the second book in the Love Light Farms series. I read Love Light Farms around Christmas time last year and I loved it. This is the second book in this series. It is set in obviously like a summertime, I think, spring. And I didn't love this. I think the pacing was all over the place. It was short, but also just felt like it dragged. It was so odd. Like I could tell the differences between the books and the writing style, and I guess like maturity as a writer too. This one is not my favorite. I gave it 3 stars, so this is going to be a no for me in terms of recommendations. I do want to continue and finish off the series because I do still believe I have Mixed Signals and Business Casual left to finish. Up next, I have Wild and Wrangled, which is by Lila Sage. This is the 4th and final book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which was another book that I was really excited for. This one definitely met my expectations and my hopes for it. I think I was hoping that with a friends to lovers, second chance, childhood friends to lovers, whatever it is, that sometimes it can be a really weak book, but I think putting it at the end of the series really worked in Lila's favor because we were able to grow and love these characters over the course of the 3 previous books, and then when we got to their story and got to see their history and what have you, it just really worked for me. This was a 4.75 stars, so this is definitely a book that I would recommend. You guys know I'm just a sucker for childhood friends to lovers, so I usually enjoy any book with that trope in it regardless. But yeah, I never ended up giving a book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series 5 stars, which is kind of sad. Next up, I read Riding the High by Paisley Hope, someone who's not a one-hit wonder, Miss Paisley Hope. This book ate the house down boots. This is, wait until you guys hear about what this book is. This is the 3rd book in the Silver Pines series. Please read this series, I'm begging all of you. This is Single Dad. He's a sheriff. He has been secret best friends with her for a long time. And accidental marriage in Vegas. Like, honestly, I actually think that Paisley wrote this book for me. This was 5 stars. This has been my favorite book in the series so far. It was just so beautiful. I was like drawing all of these really sweet little drawings in here and everything. I love Cole and Ginger so much. This succeeded in the way that Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage did not. It's a very similar dynamic minus the enemies to lovers part of it, and it didn't hit, but this one ate. This one ate. It was so stinking good. Next up, I have Great Big Beautiful Life, which is by Emily Henry. Now, before I talk about this, I just want to say I'm very grateful that I was indeed sent an early copy of this book. However, I did DNF this book and I still have the bookmark in it. I DNF'd it at about 52% or something like that, I think, when I looked it up. I kind of had an issue with this one because I was really intrigued in the romance and not intrigued in this mystery plot with this like writer. The concept of this one again is we have 2 writers competing to write the story of this famous woman, and I guess we were getting way too much of the woman's backstory. I didn't care. I have since also found out the ending of this book, and I really don't think that having that much of her story was necessary or relevant to the plot twist of the end of the book. I was just finding myself itching for the romance, and that's not to say that I only care about romance. I feel like when you write a general fiction like this and you have 2 plots, there needs to be equal intrigue in both plots. I have read books like this before. Think of Evelyn Hugo and things like that. If the general plot is interesting, I will read it, but I was not interested at all. So unfortunately that was a DNF, and I'm really sorry. I do believe that that book got a lot of mixed reviews and a lot of negative reviews for an Emily Henry book. Up next, I read this book called Homebound. Now this was the first book that we ever chose for my online book club. If you guys want to join that, I'll leave all the information in the description box. We decided to do a cutesy little cowboy romance up first, and this was not good. This was like such a funny way to start the book club because it was not good. I always try to pick indie books when we do this and stuff that's on Kindle Unlimited, not only so that you guys can obviously read it on your Kindle, but also so that, you know, we can get some exposure for these indie authors. This was just not good. I think it needed so much editing. It's not funny. The male main character gave me the ick and he reminded me of my ex. So yeah, sorry. And then I read this book called Whiskey Business by Elliot Fletcher, which, guys, the cover is so gorgeous. Anyways, I did not like this. It was okay, but I got bored so easily. easily. And also, I just don't think I liked the female main character. Yeah, I just don't think I liked her. So I'm really sorry. 3 stars. That's going to be and also a no. Guys, as much as I think the candle is so cute, I think it's making my camera go overexposed. So we're going to put it safely back on there. Up next, I'm going to quickly touch on 3 books that I reread this year because I love them and I think you also should read them. So first up was Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn, which is the 4th book in the Bridgerton series. A lot of you guys now think that this is book 3. I know that the show went a little bit backwards, but it is actually book 4. This book obviously follows Colin and Penelope. It is a friends to lovers, slow burn, best friends brother romance. This is one of my favorite books of all time, if not my favorite book. It is my comfort book. I just love them so much. Reading this again, I think I've read this book the most out of any book that I've ever read in my life. I reread it when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I need a pick me up, when I want to feel nostalgic. I love it so much. It always like takes me back to a place of being like, this is why I love romance and this is why I love reading. So this is always a yes. This is a please yes. If you have not watched Bridgerton and you would like to start the books, highly recommend. The first 2 are like, they're okay. They're not great. I definitely think the series gets better from Benedict's book, which is An Offer from a Gentleman, onwards and into this one. So obviously this is a yes. I reread Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, which is again one of my favorite books of all time. This is the rivals to lovers romance between the first son of the United States and the Prince of Wales. This book is also another comfort read for me if you want to read something that is outrageously funny, very heartfelt, also has a really good political message too. I highly recommend this. Please don't watch the movie. I'll pay you to not watch the movie, but read the book because it's really special. And finally, my last reread of that video was Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This was the one that surprised me the most upon my reread because I did read it about 2.5 years ago and I was kind of worried that maybe it would have fallen into that trap of like books that I loved at the time but really didn't have lasting power. This book made me cry like so hard. I remember watching back when I was editing that video and I was like, gosh, I'm a freak over this book. This is a royal romance. It is like modern day. She is a princess who's just learned that she has to become the queen and Reese is her bodyguard and he basically like helps her tick off this bucket list of things that she wants to do before she has to basically give her life away and become the queen. So God, this book is so special to me. Up next was a very interesting dark romance. This is Kiss a Villain. This is by Mia Darling. I randomly found this on my Kindle. You guys know I obviously love MM. Found this on my Kindle and read it in literally a day. I could not stop thinking about reading this book. This has such an interesting concept. It is a childhood friends to lovers in a mafia setting. It is obviously forbidden. This duet is going to be split up into when they were younger and to when they are like fully grown up. That book has not yet come out, but this was 5 stars. The poetic quotes that were in here, the yearning, the forbidden element, and honestly guys, I talk about it all the time. The last chapter, I can't even show you because it's a spoiler. The last chapter in this book is 1 sentence. It's 3 words and I was so gagged by it that I was like, yeah, I need book 2 now. I need it now. It's essential to my health and well-being. So okay, up next is Tourist Trap. This is by Morgan Elizabeth. This is the one that I was talking to you guys a little bit before, I guess in terms of quality. Now, the concept of this one here is again an ex-boyfriend's brother romance. It is a summer romance set in a small town. She gets a job being a lifeguard and has nowhere to sort of stay in this small town. So she ends up bunking with her ex-boyfriend's brother. This one started out really strong, but again, I do think it fell prey to not enough love on the editing floor. Trying to finish this book felt like pulling teeth. I didn't love it, which is really sad because I love Morgan Elizabeth. I just feel like her, like I said, her recent releases have not been given enough love. Another reason why I say this, and look, this may just be the ARC copy that I was sent. Whilst I was reading this book, during a spicy scene, the female main character said the name of the male main character from Never Been Worse, which was that first book that I read this year. I do think she wrote them at the same time and too close together. I would like to see if I found that chapter in here, if the name error had been fixed. Again, it just shows that when you write 2 books at the same time, especially when they're the same genre, like there's gonna be a lot of overlap. Up next, I have King of Sloth. This is by Anna Huang, which is book 4 in the Kings of Sin series. I finally decided to continue on with this series. I think after King of Greed, I was feeling a little bit indifferent about the series because I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was nothing incredibly special, but I heard really good things about this. And then the next book, which is King of Envy, I have not read that yet. This is a reverse Grumpy Sunshine workplace. He is the son of like a billionaire and she is his assistant. It's giving also like destination holiday vibes. I don't know, I got a lot of summer vibes from reading this book and I loved it. I actually dare say that this is one of my favorites in this series. I just had a really good time. Highly recommend the audiobook as well. So if you want to pick that up, it is duet narration. So that means that in the male chapters, the female will also come in and say her lines and vice versa, so that you're getting a more immersive experience. And also he speaks Spanish, so yeah. Next up, another new release was Rewind It Back. This is by Liz Tomforty, which is the 5th and final book in the Windy City series. Now, technically it is the last book. I know there's going to be another book about another side character coming out, but it's not in relation to the core, like 5 couples, right? So this was a childhood friends to lovers, second chance, past, present, sports, romance, which there's honestly been a lot of those, especially in the new releases this year. I loved this. I always loved Liz Tomforty's books. I just think they are a stroke of genius. She is such a beautiful writer in all elements, in all areas. This was really good. I will say, I thought it was going to be 5 stars. It didn't give me the 5-star feeling that The Right Move, Caught Up, and Play Along gave me. Those books were still the strongest in the series, but of course I'm going to recommend it in the entire series because especially that epilogue, my goodness, I was crying over that epilogue for like 2 hours after I read the book. Up next, I have Face Off. This is by Chelsea Curto. This is another ice hockey romance, but you sort of have the friends with benefits. She is a female ice hockey player who gets drafted to play on the NHL. She is the first female on the NHL, which I really thought was going to be a really good concept. Also, given the amount of hype that this series has gotten, I thought I was going to love this. Guess what? I didn't. I didn't love this. I hate the friends with benefits trope when there is no emotional connection. I don't like it. So I DNF this at like 70%. I don't recommend it. However, yes, I own the next one. I'm going to give the next one a try. If I don't like it after that, I'm probably going to DNF the whole series. Just think this kickstarted my hatred for ice hockey for this year. I just think everyone is writing the same thing. It's copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And there's another book that I'll talk about later that broke me out of that cycle. But I just think this is like everything that is wrong with the world and with ice hockey. I'm really sorry. Up next is a photo finish. This is by Elsie Silver. I was so hesitant to continue on the Gold Rush Ranch series because I did not like Off to the Races. It just did not feel like an Elsie Silver book to me. Like it was not good. However, this one was really, really good. This is like a bit of a like forbidden second chance, I'd like to say. She is basically like a little like cam girl vibes and he is an ex-military man, and you know that I love me an ex-military man. This just had so much more heart than I thought it was going to. I loved it. Given the size of it, so much was packed into this and I loved it. It's so underrated. I don't hear enough people talking about this one. This was like on par with something in Chestnut Springs, so I really liked this. This is a definitely recommend. I then have my lovely Gibbsy in Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh, which is book number 5 in the Boys of Tommen series. I was really scared to read this book because so many of you hated on it, and going into this as well, another reason why I was scared is because Gibbsy is my favorite character in this story. Whilst Johnny and Shannon are my favorite couple, Gibbsy is my favorite character. I was really terrified to read it because so many of you said it was terrible, and I would like a formal apology because it is not as bad as you guys are making it out to be. I understand that Gibbsy's story was not given justice, given that this book is tiny compared to, I mean, like, look at Keeping 13 in comparison to this. The size difference is crazy, right? And given that, you know, Johnny and Shannon got this and Gibbsy and Claire got this, it is really, you know, disheartening. It is really sad to see, but I still bawled my eyes out reading this book. I actually cried so hard. I felt physically sick reading this book. Please check the trigger warnings. I was not prepared for what I was going to get reading this story. I understand you were all upset. However, I think given what we were given with the parameters of her going traditionally published, I gave this book 4.5 stars because I literally cried for days about Gibbsy. So yeah, I recommend, and nobody fight me on that. And then I have Pen Pal. This is by JT Geisinger. My goodness, this book came out of nowhere. And when I tell you that people tell you that this is a dark romance about this guy who's like sending letters to this girl from prison, that is not what this is. And you know what? Loved that. Loved that nobody told me what actually happened in this book. Nobody spoiled it. Nobody like even sold it to me as being what it ended up being. That is what made this book a stroke of genius. I'm not going to tell you what the elements of this are because it will kind of spoil it. So please read this book. It is a dark romance and I have never read anything like it. I was so gagged. I read it in a reading vlog. There's so many reading vlogs. I have a whole like playlist on my page of all my reading vlogs. I read that in a reading vlog if you want to go see my reaction. It's hilarious when I got to the plot twist. Moving on to my last stack. I have The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shupe. This is a historical romance, of course. This was so good. Guys, I just love this. I feel like not a lot of people are reading historical romances and they are so good. I really always say that they are like thrillers in the sense that they are like palate cleansers. This is one of my favorite things. It really is. It is a scoundrel and a wallflower. He gives her lessons in seduction. She wants to find a husband. You know what I'm going to say, okay? It's my favorite trope. I love the reformed bad boy with like the wallflower. It's just my favorite thing. This was really cozy. It was really spicy. I will say for a historical romance, they usually don't get this spicy. This was spicy, which I love. It was just overall so wholesome. I think it was a 4-star, just so solid. I can't wait to continue on with this series. So definitely something that I would recommend. Alrighty, then I have The Things We Leave Unfinished. Oh my goodness. Look at this book. Look at this cover. Write it down. Why is nobody reading this book? I feel like people read it a while ago when Fourth Wing first came out and people realized that Rebecca Yarros is a primary romance author and has so many romance books in her backlog. This is so beautiful. This is a past, present, 2 different storylines happening. We have a like love story that is set in modern days, and then we have a love story that is set in World War II. This book will ruin your life. It will rip your heart into a million pieces. The only reason I didn't give this book 5 stars is because I wasn't really connected to the love story in the present, but the love story in the past, if the whole book was about that, this book would have been infinity 6 stars, would have like literally taken this with me into the afterlife. Like that's how serious this book was. Next, I have a series. I have a whole series because we just need to talk about them. First up is Bourbon and Lies by Victoria Wilder. This is a small town romantic suspense series, okay? So this one here is a forbidden love story. It is so good. This is a 4-star read for me. I liked it. It was good. I highly recommend. Really great entry into the series. However, the second book is where this series shines. It is Bourbon and Secrets. Again, I'll put it on the screen. This is the romance between a single dad and a burlesque dancer. I feel like I talk about this book so often, you guys. It is so good. It's unlike anything I've read before. I've said as well a million times that the books that I tend to really love are books that have such different concepts and like concepts that I haven't read before. I've never read a book with a single dad, you know, burlesque dancer dynamic before, and I just thought it was so good. It was beautiful. I was crying my eyes out. I loved it. I loved it very, very much. And then the final book in that series was Bourbon and Proof. It is a best friend's brother and a marriage of convenience done so well. This is another one, was a 4.75. So good. So spicy, by the way. These books are really spicy. So I highly recommend if you do want to read something different, if you love a small town cowboy book and you want to read something with the romantic suspense element, these books are gold. So please pick them up. Up next is Breaking Point. This is by Mads Rafferty. I was just saying before that I feel like Face Off put me in this position where I hated ice hockey. This pulled me out of it. I will say to you guys before I even like get into it, this book, the emotional elements of it are what make it shine. It is so special. It is a reverse Grumpy Sunshine. She's his assistant. He's an ice hockey player. It is fake dating. But like I said, you guys, whilst those are amazing and beautiful things that we love about an ice hockey romance, and Mads writes them so well, the emotional elements of this story are what sets it apart from your standard ice hockey romance. This book is going to make you cry, not just get a bit teary. It's going to make you sob ugly tears because it's really sad. Following that, I've got Spiral by Bal Cabra, and I did not like this book, which is really sad, you guys, because I loved Collide. I say that quite frequently. This is again an ice hockey romance between a player and a ballerina. She is an aspiring ballerina who basically is going to all of these castings, and she is not getting cast in anything because apparently she doesn't have a big enough social media presence, which is such rubbish. It's not funny. And then they fake date so that she can get more followers and become a cast in these shows or what have you. I didn't like this book because there was 2 things that set me into the stratosphere. First of all, he was celibate and she was upset about it, and that was their main conflict for the whole book. And then when they eventually did have some spicy time together, she said, "I'm off to space in my little rocket ship." Then I started this book called Redemption, Cowgirls Do It Better by Lila Dawes. This cover was so cute. I saw it on Amazon and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna love this. I did not. I got halfway through. I don't know where we were at, but the concept of this is so heinous and ridiculous. He ran over her mother 10 years ago. He has been in prison ever since. When he gets out of prison, he tries to go to her house and apologize. And we then find out that her dad, who has also just recently passed away, so the husband of the woman that he ran over, had been making friends with him in prison for the last 10 years. And I just think that is ridiculous. I just was like, no. And if you're trying to convince me that this woman would end up falling for the man who ran over her mother. Up next is The Summer We Fell. This is by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I loved this. This was so unexpectedly emotional as well. This is a past present boyfriend's best friend. Ooh, boyfriend's best friend. And very emotional. Very, very, very emotional. Please check the triggers. Like, just given the cover, I will say it was a little bit deceptive, but this book will also make you cry. So highly recommend. And last but certainly not least, the most recent romance book that I have finished is Not Safe for Work. This is by Nisha J. Tooley. This is my favorite summer romance I have ever read. It was so clever. This is like bringing it back to the roots, the gold of romance, right? Workplace rivals, destination conference, and they have to share the honeymoon suite, and there is one bed. Literally bringing it back to the roots. This was done so well, guys. I was laughing. Like, the humor was so clever in this book. I know that obviously a lot of you are just coming out of summer now, but for the girlies in the southern hemisphere, we're about to get into summer. Put this on your summer TBR because you are going to love it. And guys, those are my thoughts on all the romance books I've read so far this year. Alrighty guys, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking through all the way to the end. If you did, I really appreciate it. What is your favorite romance book that you have read so far this year? Or maybe give me your top 3 because I know how difficult it can be to choose. As always, if you guys aren't already, you're more than welcome to follow me on my socials. I'll leave my handles on the screen and down in the description box. And if you'd like to, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel and make sure you are hitting that notification bell that way you're notified each time a brand new video goes up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. I really, really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a lovely day or lovely night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!